Hello and welcome to our very first edition of the Agile TD Mondays. I am Sabine. I'm going to be your host. And this live talk series is presented to you by Agile Testing Days. Our first guest is Linda Rising, and she's going to talk about New Year's resolutions and why they don't work. But before she starts, I want to invite you to the first edition of the Agile Testing Days USA. The conference will be held from the 19th to 21st of June in Boston, Massachusetts, and it's dedicated to the software testers and professionals with an agile mindset. And I would invite you to check out the program. And if you register until the 14th of February, you can save up to $300. And now it's Linda's turn.
So welcome. Good morning, wherever you are. I'm going to be talking about New Year's resolutions, which I thought was a timely topic because most of the time, especially in the US, as the new year begins, we all think of all those wonderful things we're going to accomplish. We're going to lose 50 pounds. We're going to run a marathon. We're going to get healthy this year. It's going to happen because we believe in it. We have a nice, positive goal. Oh my, do you remember this movie? It was 1940. I love things that are older than I am. I wasn't born until 1942, but I still saw Pinocchio when I was a young child, and I will never forget this beautiful song. When you wish upon a star, it makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. I believed it. I thought this was the way to get what I wanted. If I just wanted it enough, if I wished hard enough, well, then it would happen. I don't know if you know the story of Pinocchio, but it's about a puppet, a wooden puppet who was carved by a lonely woodcutter. And it was the profound wish of that puppet to be a real boy. And the story of the movie is about his wishing so hard that the blue fairy granted his wish and sent him off on a lot of adventures. That's what the movie is about. Well, you might be saying, Linda, that was a long time ago. 1940, oh my goodness, probably most of the people who are listening were not born in 1940 or 1942. And maybe you've heard the story of Pinocchio, but you think, oh, well, that's old stuff. And I advise you to check out Steven Spielberg's follow-on. It was called Artificial Intelligence, or AI. It came out in 2001, and it wasn't about a puppet. It was about a robot. A little boy who knew he wasn't real, who knew he was a robot, and he wanted to be a real boy. And he spent a long time in the movie, over 1,000 years, asking the same blue fairy as Pinocchio. Blue fairy, please, please make me into a real live boy. Please, blue fairy, please make me real. Blue fairy, please. Please make me real. Please make me a real boy. Check out any movie. Check out any self-help book. The message is still the same. If you have, oh, well, wait, the word we use now in organizations is passion. Or we say North Star. If you know where you want to go, if you wish hard enough, if you hope enough, well, it will happen. And unfortunately, our love affair with positive goals can lead us to disaster. I love this story about the 2016 Olympic field trials. A wonderful runner named Brenda Martinez was ready to go. The 800 meter was her event. She had been practicing and practicing, and as she started to qualify, a trailing runner ran into her and knocked her over. Oh, she did recover, but the other runners got ahead of her and she didn't qualify in the 800 meter. She was devastated. And what happens to most of us is when we have these big, positive, important, passionate goals, and then we don't make them, and then we fall apart and we give everything up. We have nothing to fall back on. We didn't make it. The blue fairy didn't deliver. That's not what happened to Martinez. She wasn't focused on the goal so much as she was focused on the process. She knew how she had gotten to the Olympic trials in the first place. And so she kept on doing what she knew how to do. And for the 1500 meter, which was less than a week later, she did qualify for the Olympics. Not because she was focused so much on a single goal, but because she was focused on the process. So now I'm happy to say there's research that shows the downside of positive goals and a better way of moving forward. And in the little time we have today, I want to share that research with you and suggest that you Google on Gabrielle, Google on her work on, we'll call it WHOOP, and see if that can help you improve your track record. The work of Gabrielle was based on a pattern that's in our new book, More Fearless Change, called Concrete Action Plan. And of course, I want you to buy More Fearless Change, and I want you to learn Concrete Action Plan. But again, if you Google on Concrete Action Plan, you'll come up with a lot of stories and information on exactly what this pattern is. So let's talk a little bit about her research. What she noticed in measuring people who have positive goals is that it actually reduces the energy they have for accomplishing anything. There's something about our brains that begins to believe if our image is strong enough, if our goals are passionate enough, some part of our brain begins to believe that we already have lost those 50 pounds. We already have run that marathon. We already have become healthier. And so the energy that we need, the focus that we need to actually improve and reach those goals is reduced by the fact that we had the positive imagery in the first place. This one result is a nice summary of all the years of research that Gabrielle has been doing. The more positive women were when they enrolled in a weight reduction program, the fewer pounds they lost. 3 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later. In other words, the positivity, the optimism, the passion got in the way of actually achieving anything. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to have a positive goal. In fact, if we don't know where we're going, then of course the saying goes, any path will get you there. Of course, it's good to have desires. It's good to have positive goals. I was a mathematician long before I became a computer scientist, and the expression we used was necessary but not sufficient. So of course, keep that positive goal. The problem, the real issue here that I want to address with Gabrielle's research is the positive goal, the passion is not enough. Don't stop there. So we've got a process now, thanks to Gabrielle, and I'm going to outline that quickly. Start with your positive goal. Yes, that's important. Don't throw that out. Yes, think about the benefits. Imagine what it would be like to achieve all of those elements of the positive goal. But now The step that Gabrielle introduced in her research is called mental contrasting, where you ask yourself a very important question. What is it? What is it in me? What is in me that's holding me up? What is it in me that's keeping me from fulfilling my wish and reaching my positive goal? What is my inner obstacle? And then the final question, if that obstacle gets in my way, then what am I going to do? What action will I take? What behavior will I exhibit that will overcome that obstacle? And the format for this looks a little bit like a programming language. If I run into that obstacle, then I will do a specific behavior to overcome that obstacle. This last step is called implementation intention. The research was done by an interesting guy who happens to be Gabrielle's husband. She created an acronym for this process, WHOOP, where W is wish, your positive goal. Yes, we still need a positive goal. O, what's going to be the result for you if you achieve that goal? Yes, what are those wonderful positive benefits? The other O, what is it in you that's preventing you from reaching your goal? What are the obstacles? What are your inner obstacles? And finally, P, what's your plan? If you run into those obstacles, what are you going to do? And finally, of course, yes, there's an app, Google on Whoop, W-O-O-P. Now, some of you might think, well, you know, Linda, if I start thinking of the downsides, if I start thinking of what's going to get in my way, if I start thinking of the things that are going to hold me up, that's going to be discouraging. I might look at all of those obstacles and decide, well, this is just not for me. And the research is so clear. It shows that being realistic about your goal, examining carefully all the obstacles that stand in your way, actually increases energy. In Gabrielle's research, she measures some physical attributes, including blood pressure. And what she finds is those attributes support increased action. So going through the mental contrasting, going through the implementation intentions actually increases the amount of energy you decide to devote and the intention that you have to reach your goal. It also has another side benefit. In examining the obstacles, those inner obstacles, you become more realistic about your goals. Instead of reaching for pie in the sky, Pinocchio wanting to be a real boy, your goals become more achievable. There's a lot of research that Gabrielle has done. I'm just going to read you the last bullet. Over 100 studies in a wide range of experimental situations have come to the same conclusion. Those who state when and where in their implementation intention, when and where their new behaviors are going to happen, are more likely to stick to their goals. And this is across a wide range of domains: weight loss, exercise, healthy eating, and a lot of business goals as well. The interesting thing about all of this research is that I have been talking to teams for years about a process that's called pre-mortem. For those of you who have read Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, you might think, well, this is something Daniel created, but if you read carefully, you'll see that he cites Gary Klein. The notion of a pre-mortem was created by Gary Klein. So most of us in teams nowadays, especially agile teams, practice what are called retrospectives, or in some cases, post-mortems. But this is something that happens before. It's really mental contrasting and implementation. It's Whoop for teams. So I'm not going to go through all these steps because I'm going to instead offer you a chance to send me some email and I will send you the slides. Or just Google on pre-mortem and you'll find the steps. Teams are going to go through the same thing that Gabrielle recommends for individuals. Think of all the obstacles. What are your plans for those obstacles? And you do it before the project has started. It's a pre-mortem. I'm going to close with some references for you. Everyone should have read Thinking Fast and Slow. In fact, I recommend to companies now that this be part of your interview process for hiring. Ask somebody if they've read Thinking Fast and Slow. If not, well, reconsider. Gabrielle's book, Rethinking Positive Thinking, of course, Fearless Change and More Fearless Change. Peter Gollwitzer is married to Gabrielle Oettingen, and if you look at this particular link, you'll find all of his research on implementation intention. Google on any of these people, on any of these topics, and you'll find all kinds of wonderful information. So I know we have time for questions. I'm going to suggest that you try some experiments. Try whooping your next goal, whooping your New Year's resolution. Send me some email and ask for the PowerPoint. And I thank you for your attention this morning.
Thank you, Linda. I have a comment from Gitte, who is also on Twitter. She's Native Wired. She's an Agile coach, and she says, interesting. It seems that the game Fearless Journey uses pre-mortem, whoop, and fearless change as techniques. I think this is quite interesting, but as I am a non-tester and I have nothing to do with Agile, can you explain to me what you mean with whooping?
So I know Gita. Hi, Gita. Gita probably knows all about whooping, and she just wants to make me feel good by asking a question. So the essence of whoop is to simply say, after you have your positive goal, and you have the image of what's going to happen if you achieve your positive goal, is to stop and ask, what is it in me? What's holding me up? What's going to get in the way of losing 50 pounds or running a marathon or being a healthier person or achieving all that, the goals that I'm interested in achieving? What is it in me? What's stopping me from achieving my goal? And then to come up with a very specific, and this is the concrete action plan, a very specific plan for addressing those obstacles. So I have a friend who every year decides she's going to lose 50 pounds. That's why I use her as my example. And her biggest problem is going to parties and social gatherings. So she knows that as soon as she walks in the door and there's a lot of food on the table, that her resolution is going to be overcome by all of that wonderful food. So she came up with an implementation intention this year that she said, if I go to a party and I see lots of good things that I want to eat, then I'm going to pick out 3 things. I'm going to put them on my plate, and that's all I'm going to eat that evening. So that's her implementation intention. And so when she walks in the door, then her implementation kicks in and I'm going to find 3 things. I will find those 3 things, and that's it.
I see.
Thank you, Gita.
So I see it's like you're supposed to do smaller steps instead of a big one. So you just say, instead of I refuse to eat, I don't know, candies, I say, okay, I just say I pick 3 like chocolate pieces, and then I will eat that for the whole day, but I won't starve myself from the chocolate.
That's very good, because one of the things that happens as you go through Whoop is that your idea about achieving this goal becomes more realistic and more concrete, hence the name we came up with for Fearless Change, Concrete Action Plan. Most of the time when we have goals, they're big, they're high level, they're abstract, they're not detailed. I want to be healthier. I want to be happier. I want to meet my Prince Charming. Teams do the same thing. We're going to create the most. We're going to do the best. We're going to be the most awesome. And how are you going to do that exactly? So we're a little detached from reality. And by doing the pre-mortem or examining what is it in us that's going to keep us from achieving this wonderful goal, it's not that we don't want the wonderful goal. What is it in us? By asking that question, now we can focus on concrete, detailed plans. And those plans, those actions, those behaviors are going to lead us in small steps. You're exactly right, in small steps to achieving our goal.
I have another comment by Marianne, and she said, so it's also about thinking about your own and your team's limiting beliefs.
Yes, that's right. It's not about everything the world is conspiring to do. That's one of the things that we do with our high-level goals. When we don't get them, we blame the world. You can think that Martinez in her Olympic trials could have said, I was okay. It's that somehow a runner ran into me and spoiled my plans. The world is conspiring against me. I'm doing everything I possibly can. Well, I have news for everybody. The world is not necessarily on your side. There isn't necessarily justice in every situation. And the only thing you can control is your own response. So the implementation is about obstacles in you. What is it in you that's holding you up? That's the only thing you can really control, and you're going to have a hard enough time with that. So yeah, it's not about focusing on all the problems the world is going to present to you, because most of the time you can't really do anything about that. What we can focus on is what are your inner obstacles, and you can make a plan for that. And what's interesting about the research is that by going through this exercise and by identifying some concrete action plans that you're going to take for your own inner obstacles, it makes you more resilient, just as it did Brenda Martinez. It makes you more resilient to face all of those things that the world is going to throw at you that you can't do anything about.
Thank you. There's another comment by Marianne. She asked if it also works on the company level.
It works on every level. And in fact, that's why I included the pre-mortem example. Is the pre-mortem is an example of how WHOOP applies to teams. And of course, certainly to organizations. If organizations, instead of holding up the giant, enormous, abstract goal, if the organization encourages thinking about, let's address all of those inner obstacles. What is it in our organization? What is it in us that's keeping us? Yes, we understand the goal. Yes, we understand the benefits. We spend a lot of time on that in organizations, just as we do at the individual level. But if there isn't any organization that examines what obstacles, if there isn't an organization that examines what we're going to do when we encounter those obstacles, then organizations run into the same problem as teams, run into the same problem as individuals. They fall apart when they don't meet their goals.
Thank you, Linda. And before we finish, I would like to tell you who's going to be my guest next week. Lisa Crispin is going to talk about transferring testing skills to the whole team. Thank you, Linda, again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye.